The city was in chaos. Sirens echoed between the collapsed buildings, and cries for help filled the sky. As people ran in panic, a child was trapped in a narrow space, screaming with tears, "Mom, I'm here, please!" No one could reach her. But amidst the dusty debris, someone began approaching with determined steps. The man rescued the child and silently disappeared without saying a word to anyone. Who was this mysterious stranger, and why was he helping? If you want to learn this incredible story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the like button, because this is just the beginning. The city was in chaos. Emergency sirens echoed from every corner of the debris, and people were running around in panic. Buildings had collapsed, and the streets were unrecognizable. Ambulances and fire trucks were desperately trying to reach more people. A mother ran desperately toward the pile of rubble. She was shouting through her tears, "Son, I'm here! Can you hear me?" From a nearby gap, a faint voice was heard, "Mom, I'm here! Help!" The mother spotted her child, trapped among the debris, but reaching him was impossible. The concrete piles were heavy and immovable. The people around, gathered in panic, stared at each other, not knowing what to do. At that moment, a man silently advanced. His simple clothes and the determined expression on his face stood out. The man slowly removed his jacket, rolled up his sleeves, and squeezed through the narrow space. His hands were covered in dust, and his face was scratched, but nothing stopped him. With his strong hands, he freed the child from the trap. The child, with eyes full of confusion and fear, looked at the man. "Who are you?" he asked in a trembling voice. The man didn't answer. He just smiled gently and handed the child over to his mother. The mother's tears mixed with joy. The people around, watching this scene, whispered to each other in admiration. Who is this man? What is he trying to do? However, the man, without acknowledging the thanks, headed toward another pile of debris. He was helping every injured person he saw, not pausing for a moment. That day, a rumor started in the city. People were asking each other, "Who is this mysterious stranger? Why is he helping without saying anything to anyone?" That day, everyone in the city began talking about the deeds of the mysterious man. No one knew who he was, but those who saw him with their own eyes knew he wasn't an ordinary person. Wherever there was rubble, the man appeared, busy helping. His working hands never stopped. He didn't respond to people's thanks or applause, only trying to reach the next injured person. At another pile of rubble, a woman was holding her trapped husband's hand, crying. "Please hold on, I'll get you out," she said, but desperation was clear in her voice. The concrete piles appeared heavy and immovable. At that moment, the man appeared again. He slowly approached the woman. "May I help?" he asked in a calm voice. The woman wiped her tears and looked at him. "If you can save him, please help," she said. Without saying a word, the man began carefully examining the rubble. He tried to figure out the weight of the concrete and where support might be. Then he gently moved a few small stones aside. Every movement was careful, every touch reassuring. Within a few minutes, he managed to move a large concrete slab. When the woman's husband was freed, the man helped him to his feet. Thank you so much," the woman shouted, tears in her eyes. But the man once again only gave a brief nod of acknowledgement and quickly moved away, heading toward another pile of rubble. The people gathered around watched this silent hero. Some whispered, "Is this man a firefighter or maybe a soldier?" Others tried to figure out where he had come from and why he was helping without stopping. However, the man continued without paying attention to the curious looks. While walking through the wreckage, he noticed a child's teddy bear. The toy had been trapped under the rubble. The man carefully picked it up, gave it to a child who had wandered away from the debris and patted the child's back before sending them back to their family. The joy on the child's face gave a brief moment of hope to everyone around. That day, not only were the ruins being cleared, but the people's hope was being rebuilt as well. And that hope was carried by an unknown stranger. As Keanu Reeves quietly walked through the station, he carefully observed his surroundings. He was watching Emily's movements, every detail not escaping his attention. Despite the exhausting work pace, Emily was cheerfully serving customers. But Keanu noticed the fatigue hidden beneath her smile. After a while, Keanu approached Emily's little daughter, Sophia. Sophia was doodling in an old notebook. Keanu called out to her in a gentle voice, "Hello, little lady, what are you drawing?" Sophia, a bit shy, looked up and showed him her notebook. On the pages of the notebook was a drawing of a restaurant. The little hands had drawn tables, chairs, and plates with steam rising from them. Keanu examined Sophia's drawings carefully and smiled. "Is this restaurant your dream?" he asked. Sophia nodded enthusiastically and said, "Yes, my mom makes amazing food. One day, she'll have her own restaurant." At that moment, Emily approached Sophia. "Sophia, don't bother the guest," she said in a soft voice. But Keanu quickly intervened. "No, she's not bothering me. Actually, I was listening to her dreams." Emily looked at Keanu, slightly surprised. But before the conversation could continue, a customer called for her. Emily quickly had to return to her work. Keanu stayed a little longer next to Sophia. "Your mom works really hard, doesn't she?" he asked. Sophia nodded sadly. "Yes. Sometimes I hear her crying at night, but she never tells me anything." These words touched Keanu deeply. It was heartbreaking for him to know that such a young child could feel so much. In that moment, Keanu made a decision. He needed to do something that would change Emily and Sophia's lives. Smiling at Sophia, he said, "You know, your mom is a very strong woman. But sometimes strong people need help too. Maybe we can do something." Sophia looked up at Keanu with hope in her eyes. At that moment, an idea began to take shape in Keanu's mind. As Keanu watched Emily at the station, a plan was forming in his mind. Every movement of Emily's revealed her determination and love, her devotion to her daughter. The hope in her tired eyes touched Keanu's heart. But seeing this mother and daughter merely trying to survive weighed heavily on him. As the night wore on, the station's customers dwindled. While Emily was fueling a car, Keanu silently watched her, leaning against his motorcycle. Emily was trying to fix her hair, flying in the wind, while graciously thanking the customer. The exhaustion on her face was clearly visible. Keanu stepped forward and walked over to Emily. "Emily," he said in a soft voice, "I have a question. If you had a chance to change everything in your life, what would you do?" Emily looked at him with a surprised expression. "Is this a joke?" she asked with a faint laugh, but her tired voice didn't match the smile. "No, it's a serious question," Keanu said, not taking his eyes off her. "Just a dream. If there were no limits, what would you want?" Emily paused for a moment to think about the question. She looked down, then smiled faintly. "When I was younger," she said in a low voice, "I wanted to open a restaurant. I love cooking. I imagined a place where people could come together, but life took me in a different direction." "What if that dream is still possible?" Keanu asked, his voice firm and full of hope. Emily looked at him, suddenly caught between doubt and surprise. "That's impossible," she said quietly. "Life hasn't left room for something like that. Right now, all I need to do is survive." Keanu took a deep breath and said, Maybe some opportunities come from someone else. Emily seemed confused by what he meant, but Keanu didn't elaborate. He simply smiled calmly and walked back to his motorcycle. Just as he was about to leave, he turned to Emily. "Give me a chance," he said. "I'll come back tomorrow and show you something." Emily looked after him in surprise. What was Keanu's plan? Sophia's drawings, Emily's tired but hopeful eyes. Those should make him do something. This quiet man was determined to make a touch on Emily's life. But Emily could never have imagined that Keanu would return the next day. The next morning, Emily arrived at the station early, just like always. She hadn't slept much the night before. Keanu's words kept echoing in her mind. "I'll come back tomorrow and show you something," he had said. But she still couldn't figure out what those words meant. Sophia was sitting in her usual corner, scribbling with her red pen. Her drawings often featured a restaurant, steaming pots in the kitchen, smiling faces and happy people around her. Today was no different. Suddenly, the familiar sound of a motorcycle was heard. Emily looked up and noticed the black motorcycle approaching the station. Keanu had arrived. His expression was determined. He was wearing his leather jacket again and carrying a large bag on his back. Keanu parked his bike and began walking toward Emily. She stood frozen in place, unsure of what to say. Sophia, on the other hand, jumped up excitedly, tugging at her mother's sleeve with her small hands. "Mom, he's back!" Keanu placed his bag on the ground and looked at Emily calmly. "I brought you something," he said. He opened his bag and pulled out a few items, basic food supplies, a few pieces of clothing, and, at the top, a brand new set of coloring pencils for Sophia. Sophia's eyes lit up when she saw the pencils. She quickly opened the box and began inspecting the colors. "Are these mine?" she asked excitedly. Keanu smiled and nodded. "Yes, they're yours." Emily looked at Keanu in shock. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "We didn't ask for anyone's help." Keanu answered calmly. "Don't think of it as help. This is just the beginning." He pulled out an envelope from his bag and handed it to Emily. "This will cover your current rent, and there's something else." Emily stared at the envelope, unable to speak from the shock. Keanu then handed her a brochure. The brochure read, "Free cooking classes for single parents." Emily's hands began to tremble. "What does this mean?" she asked, her voice shaky. "It's a step to turn your skills into an opportunity," Keanu said. "I wanted to give you a little push. Don't give up on your dreams, Emily. Maybe this is the beginning of the path to your dreams." Emily was trying to understand what Keanu had said. Her eyes were filled with tears, but she was smiling. Sophia hugged her mother and asked, "Mom, are you going to learn new recipes?" Keanu added, with a slight laugh, "And maybe one day you'll take the first step toward the restaurant you've always dreamed of." Emily stared at Keanu for a long time. She hadn't expected to meet such a kind and considerate person. This wasn't just help. It was a light of hope. Emily held the brochure and the envelope carefully, trying to process what Keanu had said. "Open a restaurant?" she whispered to herself. It had been a dream for so long, but making it a reality seemed impossible. Sophia was excitedly running around her mother. "Mom, Mom, when are you going to learn new recipes? Are we going to open a bakery? Will you make lasagna? You know, the big oven we always talked about." Emily looked at her daughter's innocent excitement, and an involuntary smile appeared on her lips. "I don't know, Soph. Maybe, but I need to think about it." Keanu, standing a little behind, was observing the moment. Emily's face held both surprise and a glimmer of hope. But beneath that spark, Years of exhaustion, disappointment, and helplessness were hidden. Keanu took a step closer and spoke, his voice as calm as ever. "Emily, everything starts with one step. That course, maybe that could be the step." Emily hesitated and nodded slowly. "But what if I fail? What if this is just another disappointment?" Keanu smiled gently. "Failure can sometimes be an opportunity to learn, but you'll never know what will happen unless you try. And Sophia deserves to see how strong you are." Sophia hugged her mother tightly. "Mom, you're already amazing. You make the best food." Emily took a deep breath. Maybe this could really be the beginning. She picked up the envelope again, placed the money inside without counting it, and tucked it into her pocket. She looked at the brochure again, and for a moment imagined her future life. A big kitchen, Sophia's laughter, and happy people gathered around the meals. Keanu saw the uncertainty in Emily's eyes but didn't speak. He simply gave her space to think. Meanwhile, he watched Sophia carefully placing her new crayons into her pencil case. The joy in the little girl's eyes was a sight worth everything. Finally, Emily took a deep breath and spoke. "Okay, I'll try, but I can't promise anything. I'll try, though." Keanu nodded, a look of encouragement in his eyes. "That's enough, Emily. Trying is the beginning of everything." Sophia started jumping with joy. "Mom, it's going to be amazing. Let's start with new recipes." Emily smiled softly and patted Sophia's hair. "First, we need to finish the course, sweetie." Keanu stepped toward Emily and shook her hand. "Remember, every step takes you a little further. I'll do everything I can to help." Emily looked at Keanu with a stunned but grateful expression. "Why are you doing this? Why are you helping us so much?" Keanu paused for a moment, then replied with a soft smile, "Because someone once helped me in the same way. Now, it's my turn to pay that kindness forward." Emily's eyes filled with tears, but this time the tears sparkled with hope. This was more than just help. It was a second chance for a life to begin anew. Months had passed, and Emily's life had changed in ways she never could have imagined. The cooking classes she had started with Keanu's encouragement not only helped her develop her skills, but also boosted her confidence. Now, the recipes she worked on weren't just meals. They were transforming into hope and happiness. Emily tested the techniques she learned at the courses every day at home, with Sophia by her side. The little girl couldn't wait to taste her mother's new dishes. "Mom, is this lasagna, or is it that new dessert?" she would ask every evening. Emily's answer was always the same. "Both, sweetie. I'm trying them all for you." One morning, Emily and Sophia stood in front of a small shop. A simple, yet elegant sign hung on the door, "Sophia's Kitchen." Emily's eyes filled with tears. Keanu had chosen this name to honor Sophia's innocence and Emily's sacrifice. When Sophia saw the sign, she excitedly hugged her mother. "Is this ours, Mom? Really? Is it ours?" Emily simply smiled and nodded. "Yes, sweetie, this is our dream." Keanu, standing nearby, silently observed the scene. He turned to Emily and spoke. "Everything is ready. Setting the opening day is up to you. This place is a testament to your hard work." Emily was still in shock. "But Keanu, if it weren't for you..." Keanu gently interrupted her. "No, this is your success. I just supported you. Every step was taken by you." As they entered the shop, Emily couldn't hold back her tears. It had been decorated elegantly, yet simply. The kitchen was equipped with modern tools, and every detail was designed for Emily's comfort while working. Sophia pointed to a small table in the corner. On it were coloring materials and a sketchbook. "Mom, is this for me? Can I draw here?" Emily turned to Keanu, looking at him with gratitude. All of this. How did you manage this? Keanu smiled slightly. I've been saving for years. I was waiting for the right place to spend it. When I heard your story, I knew this place was the right beginning. As the opening day approached, Emily's excitement grew. The sunlight that fell through the small windows of the shop was a sign of a brand new start. Sophia wrote in big letters in her sketchbook, "The House of Dreams." While Emily made the final preparations in the kitchen, Keanu entered the shop. "Are you ready?" he asked. Emily took a deep breath and smiled. "Yes, I'm ready, but I'm a little scared." Keanu responded in a tone that was meant to calm her. "Fear is a sign you're doing something important. But remember, there's a community supporting you here. They're not just coming for the food, but to see your story." Emily nodded, then set the timer for the first lasagna in the oven. "I'm doing this," she said, "for my daughter, for myself." Outside, people had started to gather. Emily put on her kitchen apron and walked toward the door. Sophia, holding her mother's hand, excitedly shouted, "Mom, everyone's waiting for you." Keanu stood in a corner, watching the crowd. Emily's story was about to show how powerful a dream could be. On the brink of the opening, Emily was now ready to write her own story. On the opening day, a crowd had gathered around Emily's restaurant, Sophia's kitchen. People were eagerly awaiting the delicious smells wafting from inside. While Emily made her final preparations in the kitchen, Sophia was excitedly running around. "Mom, the first customers are here!" Sophia shouted. Emily took a deep breath and looked at the door, smiling widely. As the first orders were taken, the kitchen became a lively rhythm. As lasagna came out of the oven and was carried to the tables, joyful conversations began to fill the space. Keanu was sitting in a corner of the restaurant, watching the happiness around him. Emily briefly walked over to him. "Keanu, we did this because of you," she said. Keanu smiled softly. "You made your dream come true, Emily. I was just a little push." Sophia was walking around with menus in hand, spreading smiles to everyone. Everyone loved her energy. Emily looked at her daughter, eyes filled with emotion. "This was our dream, Sophia. And now it's come true." Keanu stood up from the table and, looking at Emily one last time, said, "Now, this is your story, Emily. Keep writing it." With a look full of gratitude, Emily watched as Keanu walked toward the door. As he left, he glanced back at the restaurant's sign, Sophia's Kitchen. Behind him, he left not just a restaurant, but a story of hope and kindness. Dreams and a simple gesture can change the world.